Art mirrors the human condition.
We uncover its hidden patterns,
Experience human creativity.
elevated by digital analysis.
Welcome to the Academy.
Join the journey.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're peeling back the layers of an absolute masterpiece. A 350-year-old painting that's going to fundamentally change how you see one of history's most famous faces. You've definitely seen her everywhere, but today we're going to look right past the fame and uncover some incredible artistic tricks and deep philosophy hiding right there in plain sight. So, let's kick things off with the most obvious question, right? One that actually has a completely unexpected answer. Who exactly is the girl with the pearl earring? I mean, when we look at a painting that feels this intimate, we just naturally assume she was someone's daughter, or maybe a wealthy patron, or perhaps a lover. We kind of just assume there's this rich, hidden biography waiting to be uncovered. But the truth about her identity completely flips those expectations upside down. Because here is the kicker. She's not a real person at all. In 17th century Dutch art, this specific style of painting was called a tronie, which essentially translates to face or expression. What that means is she has no name, no history, and absolutely no real-world context. She was never meant to be a portrait of anyone recognizable. Instead, she's a character study, just a generalized, idealized stock figure born completely out of the artist's own imagination. Section 1. The Mona Lisa of the North. Historical context. This piece, which you can go see today at the Mauritshuis in The Hague, was painted right in the thick of the Dutch Golden Age, around 1665. And Vermeer made a really deliberate choice here. Because he was painting a tronie and not a rigid, formal portrait, he was totally free to just play around. He could equip this nameless archetype with theatrical props, totally ignoring whatever was fashionable in local society at the time, all to create a very specific mood.
And you can really see how he crafted that mood. Just look at that striking blue and yellow turban. Now that was absolutely not everyday Dutch clothing. Nobody was walking down the streets of Holland in that. It was just an artist's studio prop, used specifically to project this kind of exotic allure. You have to remember, during this period, global trade was absolutely booming, and Europe was deeply fascinated with Eastern and Turkish cultures. Vermeer is tapping directly into that cultural zeitgeist, using clothing to basically transport the viewer to a place of imagination and foreign intrigue.
So, the really crucial takeaway here is this wild contrast between how simple the concept is and the wildly expensive materials Vermeer used to bring her to life. On one hand, you have a nameless, totally generalized archetype. But on the other hand, Vermeer painted her turban using natural ultramarine, and at the time, that was an incredibly expensive pigment made from crushed lapis lazuli, which had to be painstakingly imported all the way from Afghanistan. Vermeer's lavish use of this precious stuff just goes to show how obsessed he was with achieving the perfect, luminous optical effect, totally regardless of the price tag.
Section 2. The Master of Illusion. Artistic Mastery.
All right, let's put on our detective lenses and get incredibly close to the canvas. Now, if you know Vermeer's work, you know he usually paints these really detailed, busy room interiors. But here, he does the exact opposite. He uses this stark, pitch-dark void. This intense contrast is a super subtle use of chiaroscuro, that dramatic interplay of light and shadow. By isolating her like this, he actually pushes the girl forward, right into our three-dimensional space. I mean, just look at how the light catches the subtle moisture on her lips.
Now, what's genuinely fascinating is that the focal point of the entire painting, the literal object the whole thing is named after, is a complete trick on your mind. We are so drawn to that luminous pearl hanging from her ear, right? We just naturally assume it's this masterfully detailed piece of fine jewelry.
But modern art historians love pointing out something pretty incredible. It is not a natural pearl at all. No way. For one thing, it is way too huge to be real. It's highly likely this was just an entirely invented element straight from Vermeer's imagination. Or, maybe just a polished glass teardrop he had lying around the studio.
But the illusion goes even deeper than that. When you really get up close and inspect it, the jewelry completely lacks any real detail. There's no silver hook, there's no intricate shading. The entire pearl is literally just two strategic, incredibly confident brush strokes of lead-white paint. That is all it is, just two strokes of paint hanging out in the dark. Let's actually break down how he pulls off this masterclass in painterly illusion. Step 1. Vermeer paints a crisp top stroke, capturing the reflection of the light source coming from above. Step 2, he throws in a softer, thicker bottom stroke to catch the reflection of the girl's white collar from below. And step 3, well, he just steps back and lets human biology do the rest.
Your brain connects those two totally disconnected strokes, fills in the empty space, and perceives a heavy, three-dimensional spherical pearl. Vermeer relied entirely on an optical illusion, basically forcing you, the viewer, to actively participate in building the painting inside your own head.
Section 3. The Philosophy of the Gaze. Human Connection. So how does a neat technical illusion translate into such a profound psychological experience? Well, it all comes down to the absolute most magnetic aspect of this painting, her gaze. The philosopher Jacques Lacan actually described the gaze as the anxiety and awareness of being looked at. As you stand there looking at the girl, you suddenly realize she's looking right back over her left shoulder, catching you in the act of observing her. Her lips are just slightly parted, and it creates this powerful, super intimate dialogue that completely dissolves the barrier between you and the canvas. And that sets up this really beautiful philosophical tension that Vermeer captures so brilliantly. On one side, you have pure transience. The painting depicts this incredibly fleeting, ephemeral moment. Just a quick turn of the head, a split-second glance, a sharply drawn breath. But then on the flip side, you have permanence. Vermeer is wielding the immortalizing power of art to freeze this split second forever in oil paint. He literally gave a transient breath an eternal, unyielding presence.
Which brings us full circle right back to the concept of the Trony. Because she's an archetype and not an actual living person, her lack of a specific identity or history is actually her greatest superpower. This ultimate anonymity strips away any barriers, which allows her to become a universal mirror for the viewer. Her expression is so famously ambiguous that it essentially forces every single person who looks at her to project their own feelings, their own history, and their own emotions right onto her face.
So I want to leave you with this final thought for the next time you encounter this masterpiece. Look closely at her face. Is she surprised you're there? Is she welcoming you in? Or is she maybe a little hesitant, pulling away back into the shadows? Because she is an archetype, the emotion you see in her is, in reality, just a reflection of yourself. So what emotion are you projecting onto this enduring enigma? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to always keep looking closely.
Love the masterpiece? Subscribe for more.